Jordan was the CEO of a rich American company, so rich that every day, thousands of people could lose their jobs on his single order. He hated poor people. He thought they were lazy and worthless. But one night when the city slept, a hungry little girl knocked on his door. Jordan hated noise. He hated unexpected things. And he hated to be disturbed. So when he heard the soft, weak knock echo through the silent marble halls of his mansion, his face twisted in anger. He had been sitting alone in his vast living room, a glass of expensive wine in his hand, half-finished reports on his desk, a fireplace crackling just for show. On the wall behind him hung massive paintings, portraits of powerful men in dark suits just like him. Another knock, soft, hesitant, but somehow braver than the first. He cursed under his breath, pushed himself up, and walked across the cold floor in his polished slippers. As he opened the huge oak door, the chill from the night air made him flinch for a second. There she was, a tiny figure, maybe 7, 8 years old, barefoot, wearing a faded yellow dress too thin for the winter air. Her hair stuck to her forehead, her lips trembled, her eyes, wide, dark, impossible to ignore. "Sir, please." Her voice cracked, dry as dust. "I'm hungry, please, can I have some food?" Jordan blinked. He wasn't sure if he had heard her right. A child on his doorstep. In this neighborhood. In the middle of the night. Anger won. "Who sent you? Are you here to steal? Get out before I call security." The girl looked at him, not moving. Her shoulders rose and fell with weak, shallow breaths. Her tiny fingers were clutched around something. A broken plastic doll with no arms. She whispered again, "Please, I'm so hungry." Jordan's jaw clenched. He hated this. He hated this feeling bubbling inside his chest. Pity? Disgust? He couldn't tell. He wanted to slam the door shut and wash his hands. He wanted to forget she ever existed. But she didn't move. A drop of rain hit her cheek. Or maybe it was a tear. Jordan couldn't be sure. He hissed through his teeth, "Go away. Go to a shelter. Go beg somewhere else. This isn't a charity." The girl blinked, and for a second, he saw her eyes flick to something behind him. The warmth, the soft lights, the fireplace. She took a tiny step forward. Jordan's hand shot out. He didn't touch her. He didn't want to, but he blocked her with his presence alone. And then, her knees buckled. Like a puppet with cut strings, she crumpled at his feet, a soft, small thud on his polished marble doorstep. For a moment, Jordan just stared. Everything inside him screamed, "Shut the door. Call someone. Let the city handle this." But something else, a faint echo from long ago, stopped him. A memory he hated. A night when he was hungry too. A night when no one opened the door for him. He cursed out loud. "Damn it!" Jordan bent down, careful not to let her touch him too much. She felt like paper, cold, weightless. He carried her inside. The warmth inside the mansion made the girl look even smaller. He laid her on the couch, an Italian leather piece worth more than any of her dreams. She didn't wake up. She just breathed, shallow and raspy. Jordan stared at her. What now? He grabbed his phone, barked orders at his housekeeper. Soup, bread, anything. Now. He didn't sit. He couldn't. He paced like a trapped animal, staring at this tiny intruder who had forced her way into his kingdom of cold marble and hard rules. "Why do I care?" he asked himself. He didn't have an answer. The maid came running with a steaming bowl. Jordan snapped, "Careful. Don't spill it. Wake her up." Together they managed to lift her head. She stirred, mumbling nonsense. Her eyelids fluttered open. For a second, she looked confused, as if warmth was something her brain couldn't recognize anymore. He fed her, clumsy at first. He spilled soup on her dress. She didn't complain. She didn't thank him either. She just ate, spoon by spoon, eyes half open. When she finished, she clutched the doll closer and curled up on the couch. Her eyes closed again, but this time in sleep, safe sleep. Jordan stood there, a giant shadow next to her tiny form. He could still throw her out. He could call social services. He could lock the door forever. But he didn't. Instead, he sat in the chair across from her, staring into the flames. Long into the night, he wondered why a little girl's knock could feel louder than all the protests, all the cries, all the angry voices he'd ignored for years. He didn't know it yet. But that knock had changed everything. Jordan hadn't slept all night. He hated how his mind kept drifting back to the small shape curled up on his couch. When dawn broke, he was still in the chair across from her, suit jacket off, tie loose, hair a mess. A man worth millions sitting guard over a child who didn't even own shoes. At 6 a.m. sharp, his housekeeper, Maria, tiptoed in and found him awake. She looked at him, then at the girl, then back at him, but she knew better than to ask questions. Jordan didn't need questions. He needed this problem gone. He stood, stretched his stiff back, and barked, "Make her breakfast. Then call the local shelter. I want her out of here before my meetings start." Maria nodded. "Yes, sir," but her eyes lingered on the girl with a softness Jordan refused to match. He went upstairs to shower, hot water, expensive soap, polish away the memory of last night's knock, the softness in his chest that shouldn't be there. When he came back down, she was awake. She sat up slowly, tiny feet dangling off the couch, blanket wrapped around her shoulders like a shield. The doll was still in her lap, its broken plastic head peeking out. She looked at him, really looked at him. Those dark eyes again. Jordan felt like she could see something behind his expensive suit and polished shoes. "Are you hungry?" he asked stiffly. She nodded. Maria brought her scrambled eggs, toast, warm milk. The smell filled the room, and for a moment Jordan felt embarrassed. "I eat this every day. When did she last eat anything warm?" He cleared his throat, sat opposite her, arms crossed. "What's your name?" She took a small bite of toast first, as if the answer could wait. When she swallowed, she whispered, "Emily." "Where are your parents, Emily?" Jordan's voice was flat, business-like, like he was interrogating a failed employee. Emily poked at the eggs. "Mama's gone. Papa too. He worked on a big building." Then he fell. She didn't look up as she said it. Jordan froze. A building? Which building? There were so many projects, so many cost-cutting shortcuts. Accidents happened, he paid settlements. He never remembered names. He leaned back. "Not my problem," he told himself. "Not anymore." And now, he asked, "Where do you live?" She shrugged. "Sometimes under the bridge. Sometimes with other kids. Sometimes nowhere." She said it like she was talking about weather. Just facts. A silence stretched between them. The only sound was the quiet clink of her spoon against the plate. When she finished eating, she licked her fingers carefully, like she didn't want to waste a crumb. Then she looked straight at him. "Why do you hate us?" Jordan flinched. It was so soft, but it hit him harder than any shareholder's threat, any press scandal, any lawsuit. He forced a scoff. "I don't hate you." She tilted her head, unconvinced. "But you hate poor people." He opened his mouth, closed it. He wanted to say yes. He wanted to say no. He settled on the only answer that felt safe. "Poor people don't try hard enough," he said coldly. "If they worked harder, they wouldn't be poor." Emily blinked. "My papa worked every day." He still fell. Jordan looked away. He hated that she made him look away. Maria came back. "See her, the shelter van can come in an hour." Emily's small shoulders tensed. She hugged her doll tighter. "I don't want to go." Jordan's tone turned sharp again. The CEO tone, the one that killed arguments. "You can't stay here, Emily. I'm not your father. This is not a home for people like you." But the words tasted bitter. He didn't know why. Emily said nothing more. She just sat there, small and silent, staring at the floor. The hour dragged by. Jordan checked his watch every 5 minutes. He told himself he was impatient. "I have work to do." Big meetings, big money. This is a distraction. When the knock came, this time from the shelter driver, Jordan felt relief. This would be over. He could close the door again. Maria helped Emily stand. The girl's doll dangled from her hand. She walked slowly to the door, head down. Just as the driver held out his hand to take hers, Emily turned. "Thank you for the food," she said. Her eyes met Jordan's one last time. "I won't knock again." Something in her tone, not anger, not sadness, just quiet finality, made him feel like someone had punched his chest from inside. He watched her step into the cold again. The door closed behind her. An hour later, Jordan sat in his boardroom, charts and graphs projected on the wall, men in suits talking about profits and losses. He stared at the numbers, but all he saw was the shape of a tiny girl with a broken doll. He hated how it stayed with him. He hated that he wanted to ask where she was now. He hated that he wanted to believe she'd be okay, because deep down he knew kids like her were never okay, and men like him made sure of that. Jordan didn't think about Emily for 3 days. Or at least, that's what he told himself. He buried himself in work, meetings that stretched from dawn till midnight, phone calls with foreign investors, cold emails to undercut the next competitor before they even knew what hit them. At night, he sat alone in his massive living room, with the fire that gave no warmth, swirling whiskey in his glass, the knock echoing in the back of his mind like a ghost he couldn't shake. On the 4th day, it rained. Heavy, sharp rain. The kind that made rich people complain from inside warm cars, and made people like Emily disappear into the shadows of the city. Jordan was in his office, 40 stories up, floor to ceiling windows, the skyline hidden behind gray sheets of water. He should have been listening to his CFO talk about profit margins. Instead, he stared at the wet glass, thinking about a yellow dress and a broken doll. "Sir." The CFO cleared his throat. "Your signature." Jordan blinked, forced a nod, signed the paper. Another layoff. Another 100 families with nowhere to go. He didn't even read the names. When the meeting ended, he called Maria. "Did you hear anything about that girl?" His voice came out sharper than he meant. Maria was quiet on the other end. Then, the shelter called. She didn't stay. She ran away that night. Jordan's chest tightened. Ran away where? They didn't know. "I'm sorry, sir." "Should I? Why do you want me to find her?" He almost said yes, but something ugly and stubborn in him spat back. "Why? She's nothing. You did enough?" "No," he snapped. "It's done." He hung up. But it wasn't done, not in his head, not in his chest. That night, the rain turned to a storm. His driver pulled the car up to the front of the tower, umbrella ready. But Jordan didn't wait. He stepped out into the downpour alone, let the icy needles of water stab through his $1,000 suit. People stared. The CEO walking alone, drenched, face blank. No one dared stop him. He didn't know where he was going until he was there. The old overpass downtown, the place the city pretended didn't exist, where the homeless huddled in cardboard huts, hidden from tourists and investors. He walked under the bridge. Mud splashed up his shiny shoes. Trash and broken bottles crunched under his feet. He ignored the stares. Wide eyes, hollow cheeks, curses muttered under breath. He found her near the back wall, curled up on a damp piece of cardboard, dull pressed tight to her chest. The yellow dress darker now, soaked and torn. Emily didn't see him at first. Her eyes were closed, lips pale, breathing shallow. She looked smaller than ever, like the city had tried to wash her away and almost succeeded. Emily. His voice cracked on her name. He hated that. She flinched awake, eyes blinking open, confusion, then fear, then something that hurt worse than both, disappointment. "Why are you here?" she whispered. Jordan crouched down, careful not to touch the wet ground with his knees. "I came to take you back." She clutched the doll tighter. "Back where?" He had no answer. His house, his world, a place she didn't belong, somewhere warm, he said finally. You can't stay here. She coughed, a small, wet sound that made him wince. It's okay. I don't knock anymore. That line hit him harder than any lawsuit ever could. He remembered her voice at the door, that soft knock that ruined everything he thought he knew. Come on, he said firmer now. Get up. He reached out a hand. Emily stared at it. She didn't move. A man stepped out of the shadows. Older, rough beard, layers of tattered coats. He looked Jordan up and down with disgust. She's not your problem, rich man, he growled. Leave her be. She's ours now. Jordan's eyes flicked to him. Ours. He didn't want to imagine what that meant. She's a child. Jordan snapped. She's coming with me. The man laughed, a bitter, broken sound. A child? To people she's just another mouth to starve. We take care of our own, at least. She knows better now. She knows doors don't open for people like her. Jordan's fists clenched. I opened it, didn't I? The man spit on the ground. You opened it to shut it again. The words sliced deep. Jordan hated him for saying it, because it was true. He turned back to Emily. He didn't know how to plead. He wasn't the begging type. He ruled boardrooms with threats and numbers, not with kindness. But now, all he had was this. Please, Emily, he said. The word tasted strange on his tongue. Please come with me. Emily's eyes shimmered with water, tears or rain, he couldn't tell. Slowly, she reached out her small hand and placed it in his. Jordan scooped her up. She weighed almost nothing, just bones and rainwater. The broken doll dangled from her hand, bumping softly against his suit. He ignored the man's glare. He ignored the whispers from the shadows. He walked back out into the storm, this time with her pressed close to his chest. Back in the car, the driver stared but said nothing. Jordan barked at him. Drive, slow, keep the heat on. Emily shivered in the back seat, wrapped in his coat now. She didn't look at him, just stared at the blur of city lights through the fogged window. Halfway home, her voice came, small but clear. Will you shut the door again? Jordan swallowed. He didn't have an answer. This time, he hoped he wouldn't. Emily didn't say another word on the ride back. Jordan kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, a small bundle wrapped in his tailored coat, staring at the window as if the city outside was a bad dream she couldn't wake from. When they reached his mansion, Maria was waiting at the door. She took one look at Emily, soaked, shivering, eyes hollow, and turned that look on Jordan. He'd never felt smaller under her gaze. Get her warm, he ordered, but his voice had no bite now. Maria didn't answer him. She just knelt in front of Emily, brushed damp hair from her face, and said softly, Come on, sweetheart, let's get you a bath and something hot to drink. Emily hesitated. Then, without looking at Jordan, she slipped her hand into Maria's. Jordan stood in the hallway alone. Water dripped from his ruined suit onto the marble floor. He could feel the storm still raging outside, but inside him, a worse storm brewed. Why do I care? He'd spent his entire life telling himself he didn't. He built walls so tall no knock could get through, until a hungry girl broke them with a tap of her small fist. He poured himself a drink but didn't touch it. He paced the length of his study. He tried to lose himself in spreadsheets, profits, losses, growth charts, but the numbers blurred. All he saw was Emily, curled up under a bridge, clutching that broken doll. 2 hours passed. Finally Maria came in, arms crossed. She's asleep, she said quietly. Jordan nodded. Good. Maria didn't leave. She looked at him like she was weighing every word. Then she asked, Do you even know what you're going to do with her? Jordan bristled. Feed her. Get her new clothes. Put her in school, maybe? The words sounded cheap even as he said them. Maria raised an eyebrow. And after that? Jordan's jaw tightened. "I'll figure it out." Maria shook her head. "She's not an investment, sir. She's a child. You can't just buy her safety and call it charity." Her words stung. Jordan hated that. He wasn't used to being corrected, least of all by someone paid to obey. That night, he didn't sleep. He sat at his desk, staring at a single piece of paper, the accident report from 3 years ago, the one where a worker fell off the scaffolding of his flagship tower. Emily's father. The report said human error. The payout was a pittance, no name attached, just deceased. He never thought to ask who he'd left behind. He pulled up old project files, scanned emails. His lawyers had buried it all under settlements and confidentiality clauses. Cheaper to silence grief than to fix the cause. For the first time in years, Jordan felt truly ashamed. At dawn he made calls, woke up his legal team, summoned his operations chief, demanded every file on worker safety, unpaid claims, pending suits. They were confused. They'd never seen him like this. "Sir, what is this about?" his chief asked, bleary-eyed over video chat. Jordan didn't answer. He just barked. "If we've cut corners, if people are still working without nets, helmets, medical care, you fix it, or I'll replace every one of you who lets it happen." His CFO tried to protest. "The board won't like the costs, Jordan. This will hit our profit line." Jordan slammed the table so hard the camera shook. "I don't care. Cut my bonus. Sell my shares. Find the money, or I'll find a new board." He hung up before they could reply. When he came downstairs, Maria was in the kitchen frying eggs. Emily sat at the counter, feet swinging off the stool, wearing clean pajamas 2 sizes too big. Her hair was brushed, her cheeks pink from warmth. She looked healthier already, but her eyes were still wary when they met his. Jordan cleared his throat. He felt stupid, like he didn't know how to talk to his own shadow. He forced a smile that felt unnatural on his face. "Sleep well?" he asked. Emily shrugged. "It's warm." He nodded, sat down across from her. "Good, eat as much as you want. There's more." She nibbled her toast. Between bites, she asked, "Are you sending me away today?" The question sliced him open. "No," he said quickly. Too quickly. He felt Maria's eyes on him. She caught the tremor in his voice. "Where's your doll?" he asked, trying to change the subject. Emily pointed to the couch where the doll lay drying next to the heater, its plastic head still cracked, one eye missing. "You know," Jordan said awkwardly, "I could buy you a new one." Emily looked at him like he'd suggested replacing her arm. "She's mine," she said simply. Jordan shut up. He understood, or at least, he wanted to. The rest of the day Jordan worked from home. Meetings came and went. Screens full of worried suits telling him he'd lost his mind. His phone buzzed with alerts about the board whispering behind his back. He ignored them. Between calls, he peeked into the living room where Emily lay on the carpet, drawing with colored pencils Maria had found. Her small face furrowed in concentration as she drew big buildings, stick people, tiny flowers. When he walked in, she hid the paper. He didn't push her to show it. That evening he asked Maria to sit. "I want to fix this," he said quietly. "Not just her. The mess I made." Maria softened. She reached out, touched his hand, something she'd never dared before. "One child can't fix your heart, but she can open it." Jordan's throat tightened. He didn't trust his voice enough to answer. That night, as the storm finally cleared, Emily knocked softly on his study door. "Come in," he called. She peeked in, bare feet padding across the rug. She held out her drawing, shy, proud, hopeful. He took it with careful fingers. In crayon lines, he saw a big house with warm yellow windows, a stick-figure man. Him stood beside a small girl with pigtails and the cracked doll. Flowers bloomed all around them. Jordan stared at it for a long time. Then he looked at Emily, really looked. "Is this us?" he asked. Emily nodded. If you don't shut the door again. Something in him broke, and maybe, for the first time, something else began to grow in its place. The next morning, Jordan didn't wake up to the sound of his alarm or his phone buzzing with bored demands. He woke up to Emily's laughter drifting down the hallway. It was the first time he'd heard her laugh. Light, fragile, almost scared to exist. But it was real, and it pulled him out of bed faster than any billion-dollar deal ever had. He found her in the garden with Maria. Emily was twirling in the grass, wearing a clean yellow dress Maria must have found overnight. The old cracked doll swung from her hand like a dance partner. Jordan stood at the window and watched her spin in the sunlight. For a moment, the cold man everyone feared wasn't there. There was just Jordan, a man who'd built towers so high he'd forgotten the people at the bottom. But reality didn't wait long to knock again. By noon, the board forced a vote, a closed-door meeting in his own house. They sat in his study, old men and women in expensive suits, eyes sharp with judgment. This charity show has gone far enough, Jordan, the chairman barked. You're bleeding the company dry with these new safety measures. You want to rebuild half the sites, pay old injury claims, shut down unsafe projects. That's billions. One director sneered. Since when did you care about poor people? Jordan looked at Emily's crayon drawing on his desk. The warm yellow house, the flowers, the open door. He met their eyes. For once, he didn't flinch. Since one knocked on mine, he said, voice calm but iron hard. They laughed, cruel, condescending. You'll ruin us? One woman spat. Your job is profit, not pity. Jordan pushed his chair back. He felt something old and rotten peel away inside him. No, my job is people. Profit comes after. They shouted. Threatened. Promised lawsuits, smear campaigns, replacement votes. He let them. When they were done, he stood. Vote me out, then. Take it public. But understand this. The world's changing. People don't want men like you anymore. They want men who care. Men who open the door when someone knocks. He left the room before they could answer. In the hallway, Emily sat on the floor playing with her doll. She looked up at him, small, uncertain. Are they mad at you? Jordan knelt down. Yes. But I'm not mad at me anymore. Emily tilted her head. Does that mean you're good now? Jordan's throat tightened. He didn't know what good meant yet. Maybe he never would, but he could try. I'm trying, he said. For you, for your dad, for everyone I should have cared about. Emily smiled, small but real. Okay. The next week, the board tried to push him out. Jordan didn't fight dirty. He didn't hire the best lawyers to bury them in loopholes. He did something they didn't expect. He spoke the truth. He called a press conference. Live, national. The cold CEO who hated the poor stood in front of cameras and confessed. He told them about Emily's father. The scaffolding. The ignored warnings. The families left to starve so he could add another zero to his net worth. He told them about the knock at his door. The tiny fist that broke his heart open. And then he promised, this company will rebuild. Not more towers, more trust, more safety. More doors that stay open for people like Emily, and if they take it from me, they can't take this story from you. Some people called him crazy. Some called him a liar. But others listened. Workers who'd been too scared to speak up stepped forward. Families who'd lost fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters. They came with stories that matched Emily's. The shareholders who wanted him gone realized too late the people were on his side now. The news called him the CEO who opened the door. It wasn't perfect. It would never erase what he'd done. But it was a start. A month later, Jordan stood in the same kitchen where Emily first asked him if he'd shut the door again. He watched her pour juice, giggling with Maria. She wore a new dress, yellow, like sunshine. On the fridge, her drawing was pinned with a golden magnet. The door in the picture was still open. Flowers still bloomed around it. The stick figure man still stood beside the tiny girl with the doll that would never be replaced. Jordan knew he couldn't save everyone, but he could open his door. He could keep it open. And maybe, just maybe, he could teach others to do the same. This was the story of the CEO who hated poor people until a hungry girl knocked on his door. Jordan learned the hard way. A closed door keeps out problems, but it also keeps out hope. So if you ever have more than you need, open your door. If you ever see someone knocking, listen before you judge. Kindness costs less than greed, but its profit is forever. What did you learn from Jordan's story? Tell me in the comments. Your thoughts might open someone else's door too. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. True lessons, real motivation, and the hope that one knock can change everything. Hit like, share this with someone who needs it, and remember, some doors should never be shut. Thanks for watching.